Dude, people think about it all day. Like they read books, they get on all these podcasts, they go to these rah-rah speeches. It's like, that's cool and all. Like you need to get in that mindset, but make some execution, some forward movements like here and there. I'm not saying you got to open a whole business tomorrow, but like, what's your plan of action here? What are you trying to do? Have you been writing stuff down? Have you been talking to people, asking good questions? So it's really about being in the trenches and implementing.
What is up, Merce Nation? Javier Mercedes here for yet again another Passion in Progress show, where we talk to inspiring individuals, and hopefully through hearing their stories, you too are motivated to go out and pursue your passions. Today on the show, we have fellow Austinite and founder of Genwise, Alik Mock. How's it going?
Going great. Thank you for having me on the show. Looking forward to this.
For the audience and for myself, what does Genwise do?
Yeah, so what Jenwise does, we make it easier for anyone to start a business and run a business. Really show them the right technology to use in the business, like their marketing, their website, their accounting, and also helping out with some processes. But also, hey, who can we introduce you to? Do you want to go on a podcast? Or do you need a marketer? Or you need a developer, a lawyer? So really just kind of like a hub that you can come and really build a business without no one selling you. Our goal is to really listen to you, what you need, and provide value. So that's our goal.
Do you have clients right now? How does that look?
We do. We have a few clients. One is an app for pets, making it easier to get connected with shelters, to find your pet that you want, either cat or dog. Other one is really re-innovating finance, really turning it on its head with a sharing component.
I love how your app, would it be considered an app? Or?
Right now we're a service-based company and we're gearing up to raise for actual software.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your service caters to just there's two juxtaposing things. I guess there's finances in like supplying the homes for dogs and cats and things like that.
So true. But what the cool thing is, because like really what we do is operations. And so it's kind of think of like accounting. Like accounting's pretty formulaic. Operations is kind of too. And really the founder is really the subject matter expert here. They're the quarterback. We're here to support you. And
awesome.
We've brought in some other consultants in to help us out with some like questions. We're really getting good market research before we really figure out what that offering is. Because really what we've been focusing a lot more now is like, how can we validate ideas before it goes out in the market? But also too, is this a bad idea? Let's save people years of their life and monies so they don't have to go through that pain.
Oh my gosh.
So I've been working with a lot of people in the community and getting a lot of research of like, hey, how can we validate ideas less than a month from the business case, tech case, and then from there, basically get that product offering to find that product market fit.
How does that look? Say, for instance, it was the pet company or something like that. How do you go about testing for something like that?
Totally. So we've helped out so many businesses of starting. And so we created an 8-step process of building a business. And the first part of that is research. So really that's like primary research and you got your secondary research. And so from there, really understanding the problem space. From there, crafting up like 10 questions where we can send out to our potential audience of understanding like, hey, here's a problem. Do you understand this problem? Then from there, craft up kind of like a product and like ask them like, hey, would you be interested in this solution? And from there, really just hearing what this audience would want, because why go to market? People don't want it.
Unless you're really passionate about something like,
totally. That's relentless.
That can kind of screw you over. And
yeah. Well, I've known people like, one person's worked on this idea for like 10 and a half years. And yeah, I mean, it's phenomenal. It's very, very complex idea. So totally understand. And so our goal is like, because we're a whole bunch of millennials and we got a Gen X around the team too. So we're like, man, how can we bring this to market? Because he's a baby boomer. It's a great idea, man. It's just like, how can we package this up where we get this message of like explaining your why behind how you want to get this to market? So we've been working with other partners to really understand this problem space, but also what does this offering look like and how can we deploy this to the market? So that's what we're working on right now with a finance company.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
How did you get to Genwise? How far back do you want to go?
Really, I started working when I was 10 years old.
Wow, that's okay.
Yeah. Oh, my dad, he kind of kicked my ass when I was a kid. He was like, Alik, he's like, because I asked him for an Xbox. He's like, Dad, can you give me this Xbox?
I wonder how many businesses or just jobs in general where the catalyst was a video game system.
Gosh, especially when Halo was out, it was like I was always going to my buddy's place and playing, and then I was like, man, I need to get my own system. And so I just asked my pops, and he was like, Alec, he's like, that's a want, not a need. You got to go out there and get it. And I was like, I'm 10 years old. But he was in the Navy at the time, and also like just a really good father of like, hey, if you really want something, go out there and get it. And so I was like, man, I don't want to open up a lemonade stand. That kind of would take too long.
I love how you're already thinking about efficiency.
Oh, you have to. I've been obsessed with that since I was a kid.
You're already doing your R&D.
And so what I've noticed is like, man, I mow my lawn sometimes, and why not start mowing some lawns? And so I knocked on my neighbor's door, Linda Sargent. She was my first customer ever. I was like, hey, can I mow your lawn once a week? And she's like, totally. This
awesome.
Mower, she had a red hat screw.
You have a reoccurring person already.
Oh yeah,
week. That's great.
I had her for 10 years. That's how long I did this. Number one customer right
Did you
there.
ever raise your rates?
No, I think I really charged her $40 every time to mow it. She had a huge yard,
Nice.
front and back, and sometimes we did the gutters and kind of like trim the bushes. Eventually, I got when in high school when we had like started to get like trucks and cars and all that good stuff. Had my good friend Kyle Romano. He was our quarterback. He ended up playing for Eastern Kentucky, but he mowed some lawns with me. My friend Shay Smith.
Oh, so you took it. So
Chandler.
you took it from just your neighbor to like a full-fledged thing.
Oh yeah. I was like, how can we
awesome.
expand the radius and all make money here? So we just do like 50-50 splits. Like, hey, if you like mowed with me or like weeded it or whatever, like we'll just do 50, we'll split it. And so we really knocked more lawns out. And also too, like some customers like, hey, do y'all want to jump in the pool? Or like, hey, you want food? So like we got accommodated a few times. It was nice.
Awesome. Where'd you go from there?
I started working for Apple when I was, I think, 20. And so
Was that here in Austin?
I started first in Dallas-Fort Worth area in South Lake.
Do they have a presence there?
Yeah, they actually had an Apple store there.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I worked there. I wanted to work with Apple since I was a kid. That Xbox turned into a video iPod, and I had the video iPod, and I'm like, literally, I'd watch movies on my couch, just like, I love this thing. I was like, I want to work for Apple one day, and I was in there getting a computer for college, and me and this other expert, Walt, we were going back and forth, and I knew a lot, and he's like, man, you want to work for Apple? I was like, dude, that'd be cool. Can you look it up? And so he was like, yeah, man. He's like, apply. I'll give you a recommendation. I got him on the first interview and started working for Apple. Gosh, 3 years. And it moved me out here to Austin to get my degree. And so I basically gave the lawn business over to a friend before I moved.
I love how you're just like selling your business off. Like, oh, that's great.
I was like, here you go, bro. Here's a whole bunch of accounts. You take it. I got to go to Austin. There's some technology over there. It's like Dallas-Fort Worth there didn't have the tech. I mean, it was all about like finance and then like oil and gas, big corporate America. So I love it
It's
over
bigger in
there.
Texas.
But yeah, but Austin's
Texas.
where it's at though.
Definitely for tech, for sure.
Oh, for sure. I'm never bored here. There's always something to do. I had to literally turn my phone off to hang out and chill.
Yeah. You're in Austin with Apple. How's that?
Yeah, so I was working with Apple when I was going to college to get my degree in marketing at Texas State University. And while being there, I started kind of like noticing a problem of like how complex business is. And a lot of small business owners were like having their business run them. And I was like, wow, this is pretty messed up. And so I started helping out businesses for free, like freelancing on marketing side, because I wanted to walk out of college to be a CMO. And I knew no one would hire me if I didn't have any real-time experience.
Yeah, for sure.
And so so I started helping out some people for free. Went into the business like, hey, I'd love to help you out in marketing. This is what I can do. And so I increased this one lady's traffic. 35,000% in the first month.
Jesus.
I did basically went to other apartments like, hey, this is a restaurant and she had good pizza. I was like, hey, instead of y'all using this other place for pizza, here's a better deal. If y'all can pay this price for these pizzas, but also give brochures in these mailboxes, that'd be awesome. And ran some simple ads, updated her website. This is some basic stuff. And it's amazing like how like you can go in a business and kind of supercharge it. Because I really feel like a lot of people understand of what they're doing, but they get held back from the business side. And that's really became a conviction. And really that's why I started creating more Genwise and building a team around it. So
Sounds like you're big into marketing.
yeah, I mean, if you can't market or sell what you do, you're kind of shit out of luck.
Let's say you have a good idea for a business, but how much does the marketing put into that?
Oh, it's everything. I mean, if you can't properly convey to someone of what you want to do, like that startup, or like, hey, this is my existing business, this is how I can help you. If you can't convey that, how can someone understand of like how to use your services or your product? So I think marketing is essential. It also helps you learn from like, hey, I have a potential customer. How can I get that customer, but also work from that customer back and understanding that experience? Because it's not about you, it's about them.
Yeah.
So it's all about able to craft it and really understanding what they want and having some empathy.
I was just watching a speech by Jeff Bezos and how he talks about customer first. That's like their number one bullet point there, which is like for sure. Because I mean, you get your packages in one day or even less than that. It's like crazy.
Yeah.
But when we were talking on the phone, I think you brought up, did you help a production company like with their marketing and everything?
Yes.
Like, do you want to tell that story?
Yeah. So with Province Films was 3 guys, amazing. One of my business partners, grew up with one of them, and they did like freelancing, like videography and production, etc. And they were like, man, we want to come together and build a business. And the first meeting we had, it was like, gosh, I think 6 of us in the room, so my team, their team. And I was like asking them, like, so what do you do? What do you do? What do you do?
Yeah.
Who's like the one that knows business the most here?
Yeah.
And so Zach Morris, he knew most like the business side, and you got Leo, really good at like really crafting things up. And then Ryan, his editing skills is unreal.
Cool.
And so really, we really understood what they wanted to provide. And so we helped them with their business model, kind of like that marketing message, which they already had down, but also really understanding of where they want to go. It's like, hey, like how many customers do y'all need to be sustainable as a team? So made a model around that, and then opened up their business, and then even went to Frost Tower to open their bank account.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was really enriching moment, and I ran across Zach Morris, one of the founders of Province Films, about 3 weeks ago. And good news for them, they merged with a bigger company.
Nice.
Luke with BLS Films. And so they're out there killing it, man. Great video production they're able to do. So it's enriching. And what he told me is like, Alik, he's like, thank you so much for helping us. It was easy experience of actually setting up a business. We didn't have to go through all that minutia. Y'all got us on technology. Like we brought them on Airtable. We got them on Slack. It's how you talk with each other. It's how you stay organized.
yeah, for sure. Back when I was working at the Chive, when I saw Slack, I was like, oh, it's AOL Instant Messenger, but for businesses. This is nice. You can still throw in the occasional GIF with all of your, or GIF, however you want to pronounce it, with all of your messages.
That's awesome. Yeah, because we've been helping out some baby boomer businesses, like kind of like updating what they do, like online presence, also adding software in the business, training them how to use that software. Also has some simple processes like, hey, how do you bring people in the business from staff to those customers? But also introducing them to other parties for like lawyers, accountants. We got developers they can tap into. But like explaining Slack to them is hilarious. I'm like, you got an iPhone, right? And they're like, yeah, I got one. So like, think of like iMessage and email came together and had a baby. They need Slack. You do calls, you do your messages. You don't have to get lost in those email chains. Like it's just all right there. You can separate like business from personal side. So they tend to like it, especially if you show them how to use it.
Yeah. Personally, I actually didn't download Slack on my phone, because you can still get the email notifications. But so I would open up if somebody messaged me on Slack and it was important, I'd be like, okay, whenever I'm around a computer again, I'll answer the message. But that's how I would approach it. It sounds like you guys take all of the what's hip and up to date technology wise that most businesses are using or not using, and then give those efficiencies to the people that you're working with.
Correct. Because really what we've looked at too is like, what are these Fortune 500 companies using? Because they used to build out their all internal softwares. Now they're using software that anyone can use, and there's a freemium model. So we really showed people how to start a business and actually run one less than $50 a month with all their softwares, from their accounting, from marketing to what I said earlier, even the professional email with G Suite, which is just phenomenal. So, I mean, you only know what you know. And I wish I had this 8-step process when I first started, but also understood what technology to use. And I really feel like, hey, let's take that out where you don't have to spend all that research, all that time, money, trying to figure out what your business needs. Come to us and we'll understand what you want to do and kind of package that up and help you basically supercharge your idea. So,
yeah, it sounds like you guys are, because when I'm thinking in my mind, it's like the whole IT department of how to set things up, because people like say there's the creative side in a video production department or whatever have you, but all of the back end stuff to just run a business efficiently.
Correct. Yeah, because like we really focus on business technology. And really what Genwise is actually short for generating wisdom. So it's our goal. It's our goal to always stay up to date with the technology business side and bringing those updates to your business, but also asking you before any updates comes out, like, hey, here's a new software that could be beneficial to your business. We ask you first, like you're the quarterback here. We're here to assist what you do.
Yeah.
And so if they want to go with it, we can migrate all their data to the new systems, because a lot of the systems we use are highly secure, but also you can easily move data back and forth. So the goal is really just like, hey, you focus on what you do.
Yeah.
And we'll take care of the business side for you, make sure that your company's expenses are staying lower, kind of driving that revenue up, introducing you to the people that you need. Yeah.
Are you just here in Austin, or do you guys service people outside of Austin?
Yeah, so really focus here in the Austin area. We have helped out some people on the outsides. I'm originally from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so I got some friends out there. One of my business partners is from the Houston area, so we're looking out to like expand there. But what our focus is really we're being hands-on with people and understanding this problem space even more. We really can bring this to the virtual, where you can really build that business with scale.
When you were on the service side, when did you have the impetus of the idea to start scaling it to a software side?
Yeah, it was, I think we've helped out at least 20 businesses.
Yeah.
And so I noticed a lot of repeatable things. I was like, man,
go.
like first off, like manually prove this out and then you can automate it. And so we've really like kind of basically systematized this, kind of think what Henry Ford did with cars. Like
Is that a correct term? Systematize? I hope that's a correct. Yes.
Yeah. Make it formulaic, because what I've noticed a lot of like small business owners is just a lot of willy nilly. Like, hey, I think I need this, I need that. Like, no, where's a formula here that people can get onto? And so I think we've created that. So now our goal is where people can sign up to their business as easy as signing on to Facebook.
Oh, wow.
So really be able to create your business environment right there at one place instead of scattered across many. And we're not going to build everything ourselves. Hey, we're here to integrate. There's a lot of cool apps out there, a lot of cool companies. Like, hey, how can we enhance this experience what these people can have? So just kind of think of you going to the Apple store. Someone's introducing like, hey, how can we help you today? And so you're either going to need help on an existing product or getting a new product. So our goal is to understand your needs and really not sell you on anything. We're here to listen to you, provide value, and we'll understand your needs and say anything outside of us. Let's bring you over to one of our partners that we got to deal with to give you a better price. And it's a friendly introduction. And also we can introduce you to more people if you don't think this is going to work out.
Yeah.
So
I was clicking around on your website and it looks like you guys have all of the apps kind of in an interface. How does that, for people that haven't seen it before, can you describe what your product or service looks like?
Yeah. And I'll step back a little bit too with the team. So we've been working on this for like 3.5 years. And so really since day one, it's like I told the team, it's like, hey, we're not gonna race to build a software. We're not gonna build our own technology. There's all this cool technology out there, but who's bringing it together in one easy experience? And so I think we've really honed that. Airtable is one of the softwares you use right now. It's like that command center that brings your business all in one place. You have your CRM. You can keep track of the resources
is
in your
Airtable
business.
something that you have?
No, they're a company that's in Silicon Valley.
Okay. And
they just raised like 100 million. So they're now valued at 1.1 billion. Amazing company. They're really like a database, spreadsheet like database that you can link up your, say if you have a type form or your website collecting data, you can bring that data and all in one place via Airtable. Cool. They got APIs and you use Zapier. So at Airtable, we used existing technology to where we can build this experience that we want. Because the goal is, it's not about us, it's about them. Like, how can we bring value to our customers first? And then we'll just really start building from there. So it's amazing. You really get to hear what your customers need and you can build out new products, services from there. So,
yeah, it seems like it's very data driven in terms of doing the research and scrubbing for data. And it sounded like from what you want to do on the software side is if you had some sort of search thing to scrub any kind of conversation, whether it be in Slack or an email, but then have it pop up like straight from like, oh, it doesn't matter where it's at. You can just search for it and it's there.
Oh, yes. I did tell you about that on the phone call.
Yeah.
So thing is like we got 3 offerings right now. It's Genwise is the free side where you can come up, sign today, and where you can start building your business. We'll give you that command center with all the tools. You can have your CRM on there. And then we have Genwise Plus. It's our white glove service where we help you build a business or go into your existing business. And then Genwise Hub, which is bring your business one place where you can sign up to build your business. And then we're building out Genwise app, which is exactly what you talked about.
So am I giving away insider information
right
now?
That's our next offering right there. But you're good. You're good. So I told a few people about that. Yes, you did. And also, this is my first podcast. So
awesome.
I was like, Jerry approached me about this. He's like, bro, have you ever given a podcast? And I was like, dude, I listened to a lot of those. Been looking forward to this.
Cool, man. Cool.
So yeah.
Is your software an app, and how has it been? Because I'm assuming you're already developing the app. Like, how is it developing an app?
Oh, it's fun. I think it really comes down to really the design, really the framework that you want to use, and also your roadmap. Because really what we understood is really like, hey, let's design the software here, and then let's build this out in another country.
Oh, that's awesome.
So my business partners from Colombia, we have some contacts in Argentina, and then of course other places. So we rather design here, and then we can send it over to them and make sure we have that experience down. So keeping costs down too. That's the whole point.
When it comes to any kind of software development, or I just started building, or I didn't just start. I finished my website, and I was like, man, this is a lot easier to do on something like Squarespace.
Oh,
but
dude,
Jesus
Squarespace
Christ,
is awesome.
but I cannot imagine, unless there's like a Squarespace for app development. Is there?
Okay, you got Bubbles.
Bubble? Is that like a way to?
Yeah, you can build out an app with no code. So,
okay.
And there's a few other ones out there. But like thing is, if you want to test out your software idea, go get on that. It's like drag and drop.
Okay,
yeah, it's
cool.
like Bubbles.io.
I don't even have an app idea. I just want to.
You want to dabble?
With my experience with Squarespace, I was like, I wonder if there's something like this for mobile, which would be nice. It sounds like you're in a transition period, and are you guys at scale with the serviceability? Focusing your time wise, would you much rather focus on building out the app and doing all that stuff, or working with specific people?
I think it's a great question. Great question. So really, we've been starting to monetize on our service side. And so what I love doing is automating myself. So really creating processes, procedures on stuff.
You talk about it like you're duplicating yourself.
Dude, that's the goal with a business owner. These business owners need to know I'm like, hey, I'm willing to show you how to do this.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like goal is like you want to focus on what you do. Like I'm always looking at that next thing. Like what's the next thing, and then from there build that out and then give it over to my COO. And they can start really building at scale. With my passion is software. It's been since day one. So we've been starting that process of designing, figuring out what our tech stack is to build that out. Also what partners we want to deal with to like actually build this out once we get after we raise our seed round. So hopefully to close that seed round here in Austin, we'll see. How does
that look? Can you actually, just to give the audience an idea, because I feel like most of the listeners some of them are entrepreneurs, but others are like YouTube creators and things like that. I think at least from my standpoint, I'm just interested, like how do you go about doing that? Like what's the, I guess, networking, or what's your cold turkey pitch of like, do you send emails? Are you DMing people? Like, how does that look?
Dude, it's like dating, man. So you really got to find, it's very interesting with that world of like finding an angel investor, potentially a VC. Angel investor is just a person that will like invest in a company. VC, venture capitalist, usually a group of people getting together. That process is something I'm not a savant in. That's why I brought someone in.
Okay, cool. So you were, in terms of experience, you're like, I want to accomplish this, but I need more experience. So
correct, and because like the goal is always know like where your weak points are, and so I was like, I never raised before. I've helped some companies do that, but it wasn't me on the spotlight. So brought someone in that really brought money into other companies, and kind of he's been giving me like knowledge of how to build this side up, and like, hey, this is how you talk to investors. This is how you craft deals. And so he's been awesome because I'm really good at creating that relationship. And so he's kind of coming in there with those investors, kind of like maintaining that, like, hey, this is what we've been working on. Because the goal is, what I've noticed with VCs, I mean, 9 out of 10 of their investments fail. It's just like,
it's just
well, you know why they're failing? It's
Mhm.
because they're looking for grand slams. Like, why are we
Yeah.
not playing Moneyball here?
Yeah.
Like backing this stuff up with statistics. And so that's really like our another goal been at Genwise is like, how can we play Moneyball with business of like where we give these investors good deals in these companies? Like, hey, this is what they've been working on. Here's the data backing this up. This is where they want to go. This is how much they want to raise based off their pro forma.
Mm-hmm.
Give
Yeah.
it over to them.
Is it typical what you see on something like Shark Tank, or is it like a little different? Obviously, not all the glamour of like you walk into a room and then there's a soundtrack like dun 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 dun. But does it somewhat fit that aesthetic?
So, I mean, of course, you got your Capital Factory and some other places that they kind of facilitate stuff like that. But really, it's kind of like having coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So you just go in there meeting with them and just discussing what your goals are for your business, and also with investors, they're not. Yes, they're giving money over in a sense, and they're kind of investing in that idea, but they're more investing in that team because this team execute off on this idea. Because really, at the end of the day, all a business is someone had that amazing idea and able to get those people and resources behind it to build that business up. So that's really what they're interested in.
I actually just asked. I had one of the first guys. He was one of the first employees of PayPal and eBay, and so I just actually asked him that question, like when you're investing, because he obviously is investing in companies now, but I asked him like, what would you invest in, a good idea or like a subpar idea, but you know that the person behind the idea, it gets stuff done, you know?
Yep.
And it sounds like you're in the middle of raising the money. Do you set yourself a deadline? How does that look?
Yes, because you don't want to be in that forever raise mode because it takes you off of scope. Because thing is too, like you can also tap into grants, you can tap into small business loans, business credit, banking credit. There's so many ways to raise now. Crowdfunding, be very careful on that one.
How so? Why are you hesitant there?
I mean, with the Trump administration in 2017, they passed the Tax Act, which I believe has had that in there, where now companies can raise up to $50K or $50 million with unaccredited investors, and so you got like platforms like Seed Invest, Start Engine that you can go raise like equity for money or give away equity for money. I really kind of like with investors, when they look at that, they're like, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen because you have maybe like you raised like maybe 100,000 and you got like maybe 2,000 investors. It's just like, you got to deal with all those people.
It's like you're a public company already, but not even public.
Exactly.
And then what happens if that company does go public? Oh my gosh.
Yes. See, that's a huge
Has that
thing.
happened? Do you know of an example of that?
Well, that's why I started talking to SEC attorneys. And so I was like, hey, like, how's this done? And like, if we ever wanted to do this, what's a good idea? And what I've kind of learned is like, if you do that, do it in Texas. Like do it in your own state that you're filed in. And you can do it as an LLC as well. So I really don't recommend it. It is kind of somewhat easy to set up, but I would recommend doing like Kickstart, Indiegogo, where you're just kind of like you're kind of just raising monies, like almost as a donation or a GoFundMe, but you're giving away like some kind of product or hat, etc. So
yeah. Do you know what happens if you don't follow through with your product or service?
Like with Kickstarter?
Yeah.
So I'm not too aware with those ones of like what that would happen, but I think potentially they could take that monies back before giving to you, because I think you have to meet your goal.
Oh, okay.
So if you meet your goal, I think you get to keep that money. But say if the execution on the product doesn't happen, I don't think there's really a penalty.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's kind of weird though, because it's like you're raising the money to do the thing. So it's like, gosh. Yeah.
And you had this goal of like, hey, I think this is how much money we're gonna need to get in, and like what I think when people are not able to achieve to building that product or service, I mean, it's came down to the execution. Were you doing it in an efficient way? Did you have the right people telling you like how to do this? Did you have the right resources? So I think that's really what comes down to. So love to make sure that doesn't happen.
In your experience, what's the number one thing that you see why businesses fail?
Gosh, try to do too many things.
Is it just like a one person trying to do too much, or a business in and of itself is making one
that also happens too, but really they try to take on everything for themselves. Like just trying to take everything on. Like, no, like learn how to delegate.
Yeah,
I think once a business owner learns that, I mean, they just hit another level.
Yeah.
And so also too, it comes down to the financial aspect. I was talking with Congressman Doggett about this and then his team, where they're like, well, how with the financial side with small businesses, how's that looking? Like the tax side, how can we streamline that? And I showed him like, hey, here's some softwares you can use.
Of course he did. Of course.
He was like, really? And he like looked at his sister. He's like, let's get a follow-up meeting. All right. So what I told them was, is like, you're looking at this problem one-sidedly. When you look, a lot of people tend to look at problems one-sidedly. Like, no, you got to look at both sides here. With small business owners, they're just looking to make just what they need a year to keep their business going, but also their family. You got to look at both the business financials and also personal financials. Like if they're not good on a personal side, and that's a business owner here, obviously there's going to be some chaos over here. So it's really a two-sided problem. And that's what I've been working on with some other companies to really figure that out. Because I feel like we really have the infrastructure side down of like processes, systems, and kind of like people to introduce. But this finance side, it's still like everywhere. So
yeah, I feel like even in college, people don't teach about finances. It's like, why just like have classes about finances? But you're the first person I've talked to, small business wise, that brings up that concept, which is very true. It's if you are like, for me, and for instance, I'm a single member LLC for right now.
Good.
And it's like, okay, I have everything separated. I love how you put the going to Frostbank and then opening up the business account. Because like for me personally, when I started my business doing content creation and freelancing and all that stuff, when I left my job, I was like, all right, cool. This whole first month, I'm going to be doing this and this. And like, it took like 2 months just to like, all right, what, a CPA? What? And then like QuickBooks? What?
What's that? What's that?
Yeah, like I have to take pictures of all my receipts and like all like literally putting all that stuff in, and then also building the website and everything. It was like a good 3 to 4 months of just straight like, oh my gosh, there's so much more as opposed to just me like, oh, let me just sit down on my computer and make some vids.
Yep.
No,
it's like not how it's like pinball, man.
Yeah, and to also, but bringing into that, it's like, especially from the beginning, it's how much do you allocate from your personal funds? How much have you saved? And then how much do you put into that business account when you're bringing in funds? Do you take a paycheck every month? How does that look? Like, what are you reinvesting all of that into the business? How much are you saving for taxes? And like all that stuff starts to take into account. But that's like, that's none of the stuff you got into business for, at least from my perspective.
And no one tells you when, like, I really think about it. I don't know if the cameras can get this, but like when you leave that job that you're at, you're kind of jumping off a cliff. You're having to build a plane on the way down. And sometimes you forget to like put some gas in it. It's like you just ran out of resources. Because really what it comes down to is the infrastructure and finance. Like with what if I would have known this, like when I left Apple, I had a great credit score, everything. So if you have over a 700 credit score, you can get up to 150K within 48 hours, and it's 0% interest for 12 months. But ideally, you're bringing that monies in the company where it's going to be in 6 to 9 months, you're going to start going on those loans within the business. That's how these big corporations do it.
Exactly.
So they've really understood like how to do that for small businesses, making it more accessible for them. I mean, it's only what you only know what you know. So the goal is now is like raising this awareness, like, hey, there's an easier way of doing this, y'all. So I don't want people to make the mistakes that I did just because they didn't know better.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
knowing what I know now, I wouldn't change any of this stuff, but I think it gives me so much more perspective of the infrastructure of the companies that I was working in before, because now I'm wearing all the hats. I didn't go to school for accounting, and luckily my books and everything are a lot simpler. That it's just like, oh, I did a job, I got this much money, I spent gas in this things. But I can't imagine going and looking at a corporate infrastructure and seeing like what those books look like, because it's like whatever all the employees are doing, and then on the other end, it's like, what are you spending for your equipment? How much does the building cost? Marketing. And now I can understand the umbrella of what a corporate infrastructure is and like kind of what certain people are doing, but only on like a minuscule scale.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing how those companies work though.
Going from what got businesses to fail and everything, what in your experience has been like the best home runs, and like what has like really been like, oh man, this has been working, whether it be marketing or any of that kind of stuff? Any specifics?
Gosh, getting the messaging down of like what we're trying to do. Because if you told me this about 3.5 years ago, I mean, I wouldn't be able to speak that in clear English. It's just, you just had it like clearly in my head, and I was like, blah, blah, blah. It was like not coming out. But I really like, we got the messaging down and more people were able to like relate to it. Of like, man, I need that. That's a pain point that I have.
Yeah.
And then really, we've been looking at more systems to really get off more apps, where we kind of focus really in one app now. And so that's helped out a lot, where it's streamlined a lot of stuff that we do with handling with customers, also internal processes. So like really those home runs have also been like sharing this idea in depth with other people. I feel like a lot of people like want to protect their idea, but idea is not good unless it's acted upon. A lot of people try to like run around with an NDA or something, and I used to be that person too. I mean, you eventually will learn, because there's a lot of cool people out there. It's just like they don't have all that time to build your idea out. They're there to listen to what you have to offer, and they'll give some good feedback. So I've been meeting a lot of people from entrepreneurs, technology side, some veterans, and I just asked some good questions, because I listened the heck out of Tim Ferriss.
Oh yeah, man. Tim Ferriss has a great podcast.
Dude, he does. And so I've been listening to him, gosh, really since he came out with his first podcast, and really kind of understood the art of like being a question master. And so these people, when you ask them a good question, oh gosh, they'll go off. They'll keep on going. So really getting like kind of applying group intelligence into this, really asking other people good questions, getting them into the business, like, hey, what's your perspective on this? How can we make this better? Let's make changes now instead of later. So it's been more enriching, and we've been growing at an astronomical rate, just because of that. So
yeah, what's some of your favorite questions to ask, or does it vary depending on the situation?
Oh gosh, it varies, because I meet with so many people from a whole bunch of different backgrounds, because I'm kind of like a generalist. I'm really able to understand like a lot of different things and kind of like go in depth sometimes when needed. But my goal is really asking them first, having them understand who I am, what's my mission, what's my why in life, and then getting their perception on it, and then asking them like, hey, what do you do? Because they always flip it on you first, like, oh, what do you do?
Yeah, exactly.
So tell them what you do, and because the thing is, because they've done so much, these are veterans you're talking to. If you ask them what do you do, they're gonna give you like a whole broad thing. I know. So make sure, like, kind of tell them like, hey, if you don't mind, this is like what I do. This is what I've been looking to achieve. This is our mission. I'd love to get your perception on this, but also like, what do you do? And then they'll give you more defined of what their experiences are, what their skill sets, and really have a really enriching conversation after that. So it really takes about 15 minutes to get into that. So
I love how you know that. You can tell you're experienced in it.
Oh, dude, you got to. It's the art of the coffee.
The art of the coffee. Hey, man, there you go. Start your own podcast, The Art of the Coffee.
I'll just send people over to you. Got so much things I'm working on.
Yeah,
I need to. One of my buddies, we have another company called Entreminded here in Austin.
Oh yeah, you guys just had a meetup, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. It was amazing. The house was jam packed, and so now we're going to like a different location, because really it's a community built for you and by you, with bringing other creatives, entrepreneurs, and also innovators, of like bringing them together. Like, hey, this is a free event. Come get out of your desk. Let's come here and socialize. Maybe someone, so you have that problem you're dealing with, maybe someone in the community has an answer for you. Because the goal with this event is to have, it's like 2 hours long. You're just meeting people. We have a speaker, but really like we incentivize people like, hey, encourage you to meet with one person outside of this for a coffee or a drink.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, that's the whole goal of this, is spurring conversation. So that's why we created Entreminded. I have a few other partners in that. And our goal is really just one day we want to be in a stadium. We're just growing pretty big, because his goal is like, we're not selling people on anything. This is not like an event you come to sling business cards. It's about building relationships. So I think we've really been able to convey what we want this community, and people been giving good feedback. Hey, we like this, we like that. We're like, okay, all right. What can we do better? So it's been fun.
Yeah, it's been really cool to see what's going on, especially on the Instagram. I like your guys' logo. Is that Jerry?
Yeah, good old Jerry.
Yeah.
Dude, that guy's savant as a creative man. Like, because I know the marketing side, and so like when him and I had these conversations, I see him just like painting it in his head. I was like, you can do this, right? I was like, I got you, bro. I'm like, all right, let's go.
That's such a Jerryism right there.
Dude, so real.
So you brought up why, and I always ask 2 questions at the end of the podcast, but I'll ask you right now: why is it what you do? Why do you do what you do?
Yeah. So my why in life is inspiring other people to create. At the end of the day, I'm just an innovator. I had to learn to become an entrepreneur. I got held back from the business side, and I just wanted to create cool things with other people.
Yeah.
But you have to run a business to kind of make that into an actuality. And so my goal is really making it easier for the everyday person to start and run a business based off what you want to do in this life. Like, do it now.
It's just like so straightforward. Like, hey, this is what I want to do.
Dude, people think about it all day. Like, they read books, they get on all these podcasts, they go to these rah-rah speeches. It's like, that's cool and all. Like, you need to get in that mindset, but make some execution, some forward movements, like here and there. I'm not saying you got to open a whole business tomorrow, but like, what's your plan of action here? What are you trying to do? Have you been writing stuff down? Have you been talking to people, asking good questions? So it's really about being in the trenches and implementing.
For anybody that wants to get started, or if they're in the middle of whatever they're doing, what advice would you give? Especially because what I'm really getting at is especially with Instagram. Not that I want to dog on it at all, but there is. I mean, my Instagram page included has a lot of like inspirational quotes, especially from like podcasts like this, just like people saying inspiration. But what would you say to act upon something? Like, what's an actionable item that people can do from if they viewed inspirational quote on Instagram, or they heard a song and they're like, man, I'm amped right now. Like, listen to some Drake. I want to go win. Like, what would you say? What would you do?
I would say come to Genwise, sign up for free.
There you go.
Get some systems in your life.
Come to the software guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally free. Why not? So, really just bring some structure. That's what some people need. I think with, like, say that cool video you came across, like, are you bringing that into like an Apple Note that you're saving that of like, oh, is this something I can come back to? Are you saving that in your YouTube channel? Yeah. So I would say the best advice I can give is I've learned a lot, and we've made a lot of mistakes and failures and learned from that. Come learn from what we've learned so you don't have to experience that. So
yeah. Do you have any books or anything like that you would recommend?
Oh, 16 Laws of Success by Napoleon Hill.
There you go.
All day.
Why?
Why is because it's a book that has survived the times. You had Napoleon Hill really interview Andrew Carnegie, Rockefeller, all these like icons back in the day. And it's really cool how he captured basically what their, you can say secrets, but it's really their habits they built up. I mean, really with habits comes good things, especially if you are consistent with it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, especially with this podcast, is like every Wednesday, podcast goes up regardless. Like there was one week where I was, because you're asking me like how far ahead am I, and like there was one week where it was like Thanksgiving, and I didn't want to do a disservice to the guest by releasing it like on a Thanksgiving. I was like, I need to get a podcast out. And so I just had my wife interview me, and then like it ended up being a pretty cool podcast. But
nice.
But like that one, and then there was one Wednesday because of Christmas. But like around the holidays and everything, I don't want to like have one come out like right when a holiday happens. So then that's the only time. But in terms of consistency, that has led to forcing me to, like you say, like innovate, or come, like you experience all those challenges and then you learn from like, how do I make this more efficient, and how do I build upon this, you know? So it's like, I think consistency is like one of the biggest things.
Dude,
in not only business, but I think that also plays into habits, because I mean, I feel like being consistent in whatever you're doing is also just another version of like, oh, a habit is being consistent or whatever thing. But yeah, I think whenever like people ask me about goals and things of that nature, I'm like, I just want to be on a consistency train. Like, I just want to, at least like with the content that I'm making.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I'd like to also go back, like, what's that word of advice? Kind of like what the next step in a sense. I would tell people, get uncomfortable. A lot of people are comfortable. It's just like, hey, are you going to an event? Are you speaking somewhere? Or you meet another person? Like, because I've noticed before I jumped to really this entrepreneur train, I was kind of comfortable. Like, get uncomfortable, and that's where you really start learning some cool things and getting yourself out there.
Yeah, not only that, but it gives you experiences. And then when you do have those, what did you call it? The coffee chats or coffee?
The art of the coffee.
The art of the coffee. When you are in those situations, you have more experiences to draw upon. Where it could be something as obscure as like you went to some country because of something or other, but then that other person also experienced that same thing, and then all of a sudden you have a through point.
Exactly. Everyone has a story. Ask them.
Yeah. There you go. And then one other question that I ask at the end of the podcast is from Apple Store to right now. Most of the time I frame it in terms of when you're graduating college to where you're at now. What advice would you give to people that want to get to the point where you're at right now?
Understand the game.
Understand the game?
Yeah, I mean, because when you're hopping out of college, I mean, you understand college, or you're hopping out of like high school, say you worked a little bit, you're jumping into the real world per se. Understand your finances. Because if you understand your finances, you're gonna understand like, hey, how can I leverage my personal self to build that next thing? So I'd really encourage people to do that one. Get a person that knows something about finance.
How important would you say that it was that your dad wanted you to get an Xbox through your own money?
That I don't know if I would be in this podcast today. Like he kind of spurred that moment, and he got me to think different. And really kind of like people like my advisor, he's like, Alik, you're such a cause and effect guy. Like him, I think like high level all the time, and like I'm always like, boom, like answer. Like the simple of this thing. So I would really say like my dad's the GOAT, that's what we call him, because he actually co-founded Genwise with me. Because I told him when I was building this thing, it was I called him, I was like, Dad, I'm getting money thrown at me. What should I do? I was like trying to open up like an LLC, a C Corp, like sole prop, what's a DBA? He's like, Alik, I have no clue. And so he's like, I do got a friend named Roger. We'll talk with him. He'll set up the business. And so he did. And so my pops has been in, aka the GOAT, since really day one. And he was really the one that kind of like got me to think differently when I was a kid. Like instead of him handing me that Xbox, he was like, hey, go out there and get it.
Teach a man to fish.
That's the best thing to do. Best thing to do.
And where can people find you?
You can find me on my social medias at Alik Mock.
Can you spell it for him?
ALIK and MOCK.
If somebody wanted to reach out, if they had questions, do you answer DMs? Like, how does that look?
Oh, yes, I definitely answer DMs. Yeah.
And then if people are looking for advice, what are some typical questions that you get?
How can I start? Or this is my idea. What do you think on this? Yeah, I think really those two are good ones. Yeah, they can start from there. Craft up what you think.
And I'm assuming it has to deal with the subject matter specifically. So I would hope that they have some idea of what they want to accomplish and then come with that.
Or if they want some direction, like, hey, I kind of like want to build a business one day, but I don't know how, or I don't have an idea yet. I can kind of direct them on that too. So,
and then Entreminded, what does that look like? Is there another event coming up?
Yes. So Entreminded, we have events every first Wednesday of the month. Next one, we partnered up with Good Society. We're going to be having that on our Facebook page, the event here soon, where people can go sign up and then get notifications, go to the event.
So every first Wednesday, and that's here in Austin. Well, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. I enjoyed this.
If you want to check me out on anything social, or if you would like to share this podcast out, do not forget to leave a review on iTunes. But I am at Javier Mercedes X. That's Javier Mercedes X, just like the car. I just found out that I could say Javier Mercedes X, just like the car. Like it rhymes like a couple days ago, and I was so excited. But again, thank you so much for your time. And till next episode, live a life of abundance, and I'll see you guys on the next one.